What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here, and we're breaking down our next undrafted free agent from the New York Jets 2025 class. Today, we're talking about running back Donovan Edwards of Michigan State. And there's many that consider this guy to be our best undrafted free agent pickup, ahead of quarterback Brady Cook from Missouri and ahead of the mammoth German tackle that we have. And I'm looking to find a way to kind of bump him up, but there's some other guys that I do want to look at that have maybe less notable names. But with that said, Donovan Edwards is really intriguing because I do think there's a clear role that he can try to pick up and find a way to earn playing time for with the New York Jets. And I would even argue there's a pathway for him to make the roster, just knowing that the Lions, with their plethora of weapons and them trying to account for injuries on the defensive side of the ball, which you can easily make an argument for wanting to cater some extra roster spots to, they still decided to carry 4 running backs, and it's kind of roster gymnastics, right? Sione Vaki being their 4th guy, which is kind of a running back safety hybrid, just a real freak of nature in terms of the athlete, that he is. But with Donovan Edwards, I do think there's some athleticism you can unlock, and it's really just a tale of the tape, right? You really have to consider the context of what's happened to him in each season to really pick up on the fact that he may actually be the Jets' best pickup from a skill set standpoint, and I guess maybe just production and pedigree, right? But coming in at 5'11", 205 pounds, he's definitely pro-ready built. This isn't a guy that you have to do a ton of projection for when it comes to saying maybe he needs to pick up 5 or 10 pounds. If anything, you can make the argument that if you want to maybe look to give him a little bit more, quick feet, anything of that nature, maybe he sheds a few pounds. But I think at his current weight, there's still a lot of magic that he can pull off. And I think a lot of the question marks around him is why did things fall off for him, right? You're talking about a guy that made the Return College Football 2025 cover with Travis Hunter, and I'm forgetting who the third member was, but this same guy couldn't just consistently be the lead back in that Michigan backfield. Kalen Ballage, I think, is the other running back, which is a converted linebacker that he lost out into in 2024, for example. And I'm forgetting the name of the Rams running back that was his running mate. Cam Akers is not the name that's coming to mind. I just had it. But either way, why, with the ability and what he's shown in terms of big play and kind of being able to take over some games, why has he never been able to be looked at as that guy, right? That kind of workhorse option where I think it's a little bit easier to earn that role in college than it's going to be for an NFL team to look at you and want to do that. But coming into the Jets room where it should be a running back by committee for all intents and purposes should help him out quite a bit with tampering a lot of those expectations. Of course, being a UDFA helps as well, but it's going to be a question. Why did he fall out of the pecking order as a guy that could have been looked to as the emerging leader and workhorse guy as the running back, and to suddenly losing his job to a linebacker convert, right? Among other things. Former 4-star recruit, though, I do like the classic north-south running style that he has, as opposed to guys that tend to want to dance around in the backfield a little bit and look to try to make some things happen. But coming off of 2024, again, a bit of a down year for him. 128 rushes for 589 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he added in 18 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown as well. When you look at his path leading up to him trying to come out this draft, he started off freshman year, Team Co-Offensive Rookie of the Year. That built up, of course, a lot of hype. Then he was the Big Ten Conference Championship Game MVP in 2022, which also coexisted with having his best productive season at Michigan. And then 2024, he earns team captain, and then between 2022 and 2023, you have a series of injuries, which I think is why a lot of people assume there was a bit of a drop-off and why he never really captured that form. He played an entire season mostly through a partially torn patellar tendon back in 2022, which was his best season, don't forget. Then he also suffered a broken right thumb that he got surgery for, and so between the knee issue, the thumb injury, you could make a case that this was a guy that just never ended up fully recovering as you would have expected. Maybe there's some permanent damage there, or maybe it was just a situation where his playing style reflected a guy that still wanted to be out on the field but couldn't necessarily play through a ton of contact and different things of that nature. But there are some things that still stand out about what he's been able to do over the course of his career. Big play threat is mentioned for a reason when you say Donovan Edwards' name. 35.2% of his career rushing yards were picked up on him going 15 plus yards or more. Had a career drop percentage of just 2.6%, and I feel like there's an element of more receiving style running backs coming out, but this is a guy that I think it's a clear transition to. You can obviously think, if you're a creative OC, you can dream up the different ways you'll be able to utilize him, not just out of the backfield, but even being able to get him out on some deeper routes as well. But when I look at him, I think he consistently falls forward, looks to always churn out some kind of extra yardage. It doesn't look sexy, right? Or it doesn't look the same way as what you can say a Derrick Henry or any of these bigger style running backs will potentially do. But there is an art to being able to just kind of fall forward, right? And have a bit of luck there. I think he does bring an element of pass blocking ability. Obviously has the size for it, and there's some things that still need work on, but I think the jump from 2023 to 2024, again, with him getting a little bit healthier from injury, definitely helped out. Solid hands out of the backfield. I don't want to quite say elite, but I do think he's definitely above average in that territory, just in terms of the totality of what he can do as a receiver within this offense. I think you look at his ability to do things like wheel routes, and you get excited if you're an OC and you're looking to try to give as many options on the field for your quarterback in terms of the pass game, right? Michigan used him in multiple alignments, and you've seen things like motion that really helped determine coverage, and he really was just kind of an X factor, right? If you want to talk about making the quarterback's life a little bit easier. I don't think you can overly rely on him in any one capacity outside of receiving, but it feels like he's more of a wide receiver that moonlights at running back, if it makes sense. And so this is why I think that there could be a potential role right now. I would argue it's going to be Breece Hall and Isaiah Davis getting most of those pass looks. But with somebody like Donovan Edwards in there, you can kind of use two different dual running backfields, right? You can have your Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, which we've seen look highly effective at times last year, and then you could use a variation of Isaiah Davis and Donovan Edwards in two running back sets to keep things mixed up and keep defenses guessing. Physical enough to play between the tackles. I don't think there's anything necessarily overly lacking in terms of the mentality or the skill set, the ability, or even the will to want to do that. And I think his best ability is when he can get into the open field. I think that's where you tend to see a lot of the magic, the explosiveness that you don't always see maybe tied to his name is on display a little bit more, just in terms of his vertical speed and being able to take the top off of some of these defenses. Don't know how much he'll do it at the NFL level, right? But if you're going to say what's his most likely successful runs going to be, it's going to be going to the interior, somebody being missed or somebody just being blocked appropriately, and then him being able to just take it to the house or pick up chunk gains, right? Now, opportunity-wise, there's a ton of things that you can look at with him. Again, 2 down years, at least going back to 2022. But some of the things that I would have keyed in on, right? He seems like one of the running backs where you kind of have these tiers or these classes. You have guys that are going to always be impactful no matter what, right? It might not be their best rushing day, but they balled out as a receiver, or maybe they balled out as a rusher, didn't do so high in the receiving game, or maybe even it was just minimal impact in both of those areas, but every time they were asked to pass block, they were putting somebody on the ground and giving their quarterback the option to find a big play, safe check down, whatever. Somebody's going to make that happen, right? Then when you want to talk about like purely rushing ability, you're going to have some of these guys that can take over a game. They're going to get theirs no matter what, even if it's coming on 20, 30 rushes. It may not be the most efficient thing. Then you're going to have guys that can go have, a crazy stat line like 8 rushes, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns, something ridiculous like that. And then you have guys that are just going to go according to how committed the OC is going to be to the run game and how effective their offensive line is going to be, right? There's never wow plays where it's like, all right, he made something happen out of nothing, but there's also not going to be plays that you look at that are perfectly blocked up as expected, and the guy couldn't get the necessary yardage that he was supposed to. And I think that kind of fits Donovan Edwards for the most part. I don't think he identifies the interior gaps all that well either from a processing standpoint. Doesn't seem like he really sees the holes open up as high of a level as you would like to see. And he's not going to beat defenders to the edge. I just don't think that's a consistent part of his game. I think he kind of, again, has a little bit maybe more of build-up speed unless he's in the open field. And then it kind of feels like he has some suddenness, some, top-notch acceleration to a certain degree. And then I think overall he just lacks creativity, right? And this is why I say I think most of his successful runs will come on the interior, because when things just happen to be clogged up, and yeah, you can just put the helmet down, churn out whatever yards you can get. But some of those difference-making running backs can also take a look at, there's a backside cut that I expect to be open or that I see will be open, or I just need to beat this guy to the edge and I can turn nothing into something. And I just don't think that'll be a huge piece of Donovan Edwards' game either. So there's a ton of comps that you can throw out there. I think the one that I've seen that was most fitting was Keyshawn Vaughn. But, take your, pick of the litter of some of these more bulked up receiving options that'll be out of the backfield. I think what we're looking at with Donovan Edwards is, if he goes back to 2022, who knows, right? His open season, then you could talk about him as being a future, running back one in somebody's room, or a high end 2 maybe. But if you're getting kind of what more we saw of kind of him not really turning up until playoff, championship time seasons, and you're talking about the occasional big threat, but more of a guy that maybe can rack up, 3 to 6 catches over the course of a game, and really just keep the chains moving, right? In terms of a check down option, maybe a third or fourth look in the progression to really help somebody out. So let me know what you guys think, though. I'm really intrigued by him. I can't wait to see him in training camp, right, and see what the hype ends up looking like around him. But this is a really good dart throw for the New York Jets, right? Give yourself a push to Isaiah Davis, who I think is the closest skill set maybe that mirrors him, and then also just give yourself another quality option that isn't overly abundant within your team, which will be in the receiving game, and a guy that maybe can be solid as a pass blocker. So let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you guys again. Peace.